Colin, once again, I'll have you kind of start out. You kind of, I like the way you define and describe the tier system. I'd be curious to see how, I think in the past, I've kind of talked like we put one together, so maybe we kind of could do, but I have a pretty tight tier one. I only have two teams in it for the SEC, the top tier. And you guys are going to be happy about the two teams that are in it. It's Alabama and Georgia. That's my tier one. I'd be curious who, do you guys have, what will be your top tier in the SEC? And I'll explain why they're the only two, in my view, and why A&M's not in it in a minute. But that's my top two at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like I would call that like a juggernaut, top of the food chain, however you want to call it. Just like tier one, whatever. And only so many teams can go in that. You can't have like 4 or 5 teams in the tier one. Doesn't make sense. Think Alabama and Georgia. Like, I don't think that's explanation. I would put Texas A&M in there. I'm actually like quite curious to hear why they're not in your tier one, because I think they're probably going to get in the SEC championship over Georgia as long as they don't lose to Texas. So I'm very curious to see.
I do it based on if the two teams met on the field, who would have a higher chance of winning, who would be favored. I don't make it Atlanta is not always going. You're not always going to have two best teams, even when you had the East-West format, like 2022, or was it 2022? Well, there's been a few years where if you did it right, if you picked the actually top twos in the SEC, you would have had like Alabama versus LSU, or Tennessee versus Georgia, or back in the '90s, Tennessee versus Florida, or whatever. So I really don't hold into weight we make Atlanta, because there's teams that sneak into it at times that aren't the best. I remember a few years. This is way back. There's been some years where Arkansas. There's one year Tennessee went very good and snuck into it. It's 2007, but it got made to Atlanta. But I mean, there's been teams that weren't very good, but due to the scheduling, got into the Atlanta game. But I just don't. I still think Texas A&M. They really struggled to beat Arkansas. There's been a few other teams they've matched up with they've really struggled with, and we're lucky to get by. They caught LSU when LSU was kind of plummeting. So even though it looks like a good loss, LSU's kind of been plummeting for a while, and a lot of it's psyche. So they're not really catching LSU at the top. And to be frank, LSU hasn't impressed me. They did that week one against Clemson, but then Clemson being a fraud, and That
yeah, but to me, I thought LSU was great after that. I thought nobody could beat them. And
LSU's offense is
Clemson doesn't look anything like they do. Yeah.
I should. Sorry, Sawyer. I should have let you talk.
No, you're fine, Matt.
LSU's offense just has looked bad all year long. So that's part of the reason I don't have A&M yet. I feel like they're going to drop a few games between now and then. They could lose to. I got to look at their schedule. I have to go look at it, but it's like. I know they play, I think, Missouri and
Texas. They play Samford and one more team. I don't remember. So they play. They might play it. I don't think they play Oklahoma. They could play Oklahoma. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it. But Texas A&M was kind of in the same spot last year, if you remember correctly. They had the loss to Notre Dame, but they were undefeated in SEC play about this time last year, and they ended up dropping 2 games and falling out. So I'm not really. I'm still kind of a wait and see with them, because I feel like they're more of a product of an easier front end schedule versus we'll see them play, because outside LSU, I'm trying to think who they've beaten that's high level. They haven't.
Notre Dame.
I'm sorry. Well,
They play Notre Dame.
Yeah. I'm talking about the SEC though. They've not played Ole Miss. They've not played Alabama. Not played Georgia. Not played Tennessee. I don't think they've played Missouri, Vanderbilt. So they've not played any of the top tier SEC teams yet. So I guess I'm a little more reserved.
Their schedule has favored them a bit this year, if you can look at it like that.
And it did last year too. They were in the same spot last year at this time. So that's why they're actually my tier 2, my next tier. But yeah, Sawyer, who's your top tier? Because who do you think the top tier teams are?
Top tier 1. Probably would be Bama at this point, just for the simple fact of who they've played and who they've beaten. Yes, I know Florida State, that was first game of the season, whatever you want to call it. But since then, they've been on a tear. I mean, they have looked impressively, great week to week. So I have them tier 1 for me, and then probably tier 2. I'm just going to say it. It's Texas A&M right now for tier 2 for me until proven otherwise.
Yeah, so my tier 1 is basically these are the national title contenders in the SEC. It's Alabama
Right.
and Georgia. My tier, because I can see Georgia win the national title. My tier 2 are teams that are still probably not a level below. There is one team I almost put in tier 1. It wasn't A&M. It was Ole Miss. Because I feel like Ole Miss has shown me more than A&M. They almost beat Georgia. They've beaten several other teams on their. I can't remember. They beat somebody really good before Georgia. Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma the other day. So, yeah, they've actually went and beaten some people. But I kept them on tier 2. My tier 2 is Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt, and they all have one loss. There's another team in the SEC play that has one loss, but they're not in tier 2 because they just have not looked good, and that's Texas, the Longhorns. I got them in tier 3, but if it wasn't for I tried to have like the one everybody in tier 1 or tier 2 one loss or less, or have all the one loss teams in those top 2 tiers. So my tier 2 is teams are still in the running, but I don't feel like they're national title contenders.
So, okay, tier 2. Tier 2, Vandy. Could be there, but they probably won't be. I mean, yeah. It's Vandy. Let's just be real here. It's Vandy. But this year, it kind of seems like a different story for them. But again, do I see them winning, going to the SEC championship game? Probably not.
Yeah.
Especially if they played like they did against Mizzou, this past Saturday.
Collin, who would be your tier 2?
I'd say quite a few teams. Definitely Ole Miss.
Yep.
Definitely. Honestly, they could be a tier 1 team. I don't think it's really. It would take a lot for them to make the SEC championship. Georgia would have to lose a conference game. I don't see them losing another conference game unless they lose to Texas. I would put Vanderbilt in there. On that note, I'm not sold on Vanderbilt. They should have lost that Missouri game.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Perbula? I don't know his first name. He got injured in the second half, so he didn't play the full game. And Missouri only lost by a touchdown. So I thought that was a very winnable game for Missouri. I'm not sold. I'm not sold. Honestly, I think they're a top 15 team, but when I'm really for my top 10, I'm only going off of record and just stat wise. Other tier 2 teams. I don't know if anybody else really fits the bid. Because I'd have to say, at this point, I don't think 2 loss is going to get you into tier 2. Because I think tier 2 is you can make the playoff, but you can't make the SEC championship, and you're not looking for a national title. You're really looking just for a playoff spot. I feel like Ole Miss and Vanderbilt both kind of fit that bid. I don't think Texas will. Texas is going to need a lot to make the playoff. They're going to need a lot. Tennessee, they're going to need a lot. A few other teams, they're not even ranked. So I think only 2 teams in tier 2.
Actually, my tier 3 is teams that can make the playoff, but not the SEC. Is that it's Tennessee, Missouri, Texas, and Oklahoma. So that's kind of interesting. Tier 2 is teams that could still probably win the SEC, but I don't see them doing it. And tier 3, I think that all the tier 3 have weaknesses. On paper, this is where I kind of wanted to hold thought on Tennessee. Tennessee had the players. They were in the game with Alabama, in the game with Georgia. They make a ton of mistakes. If Tennessee could ever figure out how to stop all its stupid mistakes, you feel like they could be a tier 1 team. But that's part of your team. and there's a lot of question on coaching now. You got like. There's way Heupel's not going anywhere. He's a great coach, but at the same time, people are wondering like, what can we do to improve some of these problems? All these false starts, all these stupid holding calls, all these third and long defensive lapses, and the poor tackling, the poor possession of the ball. That Tennessee has some major issues with that, and so it's like almost you feel like they got the players, the quarterback, the team to have been up there, but they've blown it off. Stupid mistakes, and once again you saw it against Kentucky the other night. It's watching them, and I watch them a lot more than you guys. This is a team that seems to self-implode a lot in games with bad mistakes, especially on defense. Going off Missouri's a good team. Missouri has 2 losses right now, okay, but they could, as Collin, you said, they could have been 1 loss. Missouri is a pretty solid team. If they could find a way in the playoff, I think they could be dangerous. Texas, I still got them here mostly because of their record, but Texas has not impressed me at all. I'm leaving them in this tier only because of their record. And then Oklahoma has no run game, no offensive line. Mateer's a good quarterback, but he gets no time to throw. Their defense is great. He'll win them 8-9 games. Maybe if they're lucky, they can get 10 games and sneak in the playoff like Tennessee did last year. But I mean, they got to win out. Both them and Tennessee got to win out, and they got to play each other. So that's going to this Saturday. So that's going to decide that.
So my thing with Tennessee, and I heard this on social media somewhere, they're currently in the boat. They can't win big games. And that's why a few people are like, why are they ranked? Period. They blow out bad teams, and then they kind of look like a fool when they play good teams. This year, they haven't looked like a fool, they just lose. But in other circumstances, they lose big to good teams, and they still stay ranked. So they don't really have a key win. I would say, I mean, you'd probably know what their best win is. What is it?
So 2022 Alabama would probably be their best, but they had multiple key wins in 2022. They won at Pittsburgh, who was ranked. They won at LSU. They beat Florida that year. Florida was actually decent that year. So they had 2022 is kind of the year they had most of their. They beat Clemson in the bowl game. Last year they beat Alabama, and they beat somebody else. Winning at Oklahoma, I guess, was kind of a big one. But yeah, they've not, specifically on the road, that's the key. They don't win big road games. LSU's been the only exception in 2022.
And they give up a lot of points.
Yeah, this year, their defense is bad.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Even to Kentucky, last
8 points.
They look like Oklahoma. They look like the vintage Oklahoma teams of Lincoln Riley in the Big 12. They could probably win 9-10 games, but in a big game, you're right. They look a lot like those Oklahoma Big 12 teams of the past. They would have all that great offense, but no defense.
Right, yeah. I'd like to make this comparison, for this year. They are the Dallas Cowboys of this year. They can score a lot of points, but they can't back it up with their defense. Yeah. They just can't.
And that's the thing with Tennessee. Like, they're such an interesting team, because their offense is so good. And, Joey Aguilar is, he has the most passing yards in the SEC, is over 2,000 right now, which is, pretty crazy because we're only, 8 games into the season. But it's the defense. You can't give up 40 to Georgia. You can't give up 38 to Alabama and expect to win the game. Yeah, you can't. The defense has to give a little so the offense can take a lot. It doesn't work.
Which is the opposite of what their position last year. They couldn't score over 20 in an SEC game. This year they can't hold people under 30. It's almost the 9-day difference year between the and the expectations. I thought they were going to be a defensive run team this year and low scoring. And
their front seven is great against the run, obviously all year. But I mean, of course, they all been banged up in the secondary for most of the year. and just can't keep up with anybody. It's just crazy to me because I thought at least by now y'all would be up there with the Georgias and the Bamas.
Well, question for you. This is something to consider. I ain't nice about the Tennessee. I'm asking about like other teams as well to kind of consider.
Mm-hmm.
Give them Texas A&M schedule. Do you think they're undefeated right now?
Let me take a look.
Not have Notre Dame. I think they'd probably lose to Notre Dame, but outside of that,
possibly.
Yeah, that's my point. You're looking at some of these teams, and they've played Alabama and Georgia. There's other teams that have done that too. Vanderbilt probably has one of the strongest schedules, toughest schedules in the SEC right now, and they're 7-1. So just something that food for thought when you're talking about. So Oklahoma's a very tough schedule. Let's see. Trying to think who else on this. Georgia has a very tough schedule. Texas A&M does not. So some teams have looked better because of who they played.
Yeah, the SEC, man, they just love to beat up everybody week to week.
My problem with Tennessee is their best win right now is Mississippi State. And honestly, I wish I was joking. That's their best one.
I do that.
Well, it was a double overtime win against Mississippi State.
What about the other people on the list, like Missouri?
Let's take a look.
But yeah, my thought is that we'll see. They got to win out. Tennessee has to win out. If they don't win out, they're done. I mean, that's effective. And they got Oklahoma, they got at Florida, and they got Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's probably the best team they play still remaining.
The one game is obviously the last game of the season. It's Vandy, so we'll see how well that goes. Do y'all play at home or do you gotta go to Nashville?
Knoxville. So the Florida game is interesting only because it's in the swamp. If it was in Knoxville, them not having a coach, that would probably be an easy win. But being in the swamp, you can't take that one for granted. They got Oklahoma at home this week, and they got some nobody at New Mexico State, and they got Vanderbilt. So Tennessee has to win out. I'm not sure Missouri. I'd like to look at Missouri's schedule. Ole Miss, I think. Now that I think about it, Ole Miss has the easy schedule finishing out. They could be the one that's playing in Atlanta. Like Collin said, Georgia would win the tiebreaker. So if Georgia wins out, they knock Ole Miss out. But I'm not sure.
Don't you guys think that Georgia and Ole Miss are quite similar this year? Both can score the ball with the ball, but then they let up so many points. It is unreal.
My wild card with Georgia is Kirby Smart. I think he's a better coach than Kiffin, and that's always been I think he gives Georgia a little bit of edge every game going into it.
With Kirby Smart being a defensive-minded head coach, you would think that his defense would be a little bit better this year, but obviously it's not. I mean,
as a Georgia fan, I've watched every game to the end. This defense is so young, and that's the problem. Their quarterback too is Ellis Robertson, who is a redshirt freshman, and one play he'll look like a first round pick in a few years. The next play he'll pass interference, and then he'll give up a touchdown. The front four. I know there's a true freshman that starts. That's not good. That's not only is that not good, that's not normal for Georgia. Usually, like how we won back to back was because we had like such a next man up mentality. Like that we would have seen like 5th year, 4-year guys waiting to play because we've recruited so well. It's not the same this year. Our defense is so young, and I think that's why we give up so many points.
You can blame NIL for that.
Yeah, Tennessee and Georgia are the two youngest teams in the SEC. I can't remember which is 1 or 2. So that's I think that's kind of hurting both programs right now. Is Tennessee's got the same problem on defense. Got a lot of youth in the secondary, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this isn't really important anymore, but the best team that Missouri has played is either Auburn or Kansas.
Okay.
Or the best team that they against. So they also don't have a great win. I feel like that might be a trend for everybody in that like tier 3 spot. They don't really have a signature win. They just have look good in bad games.
Well, some of them, like I said, Tennessee, to win out, they have to beat Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. That will give them 2 good wins. So they
I can
they don't
see
win
them
out,
doing.
they're dead. They're out. I don't think a 3-loss Tennessee team's in the playoff.
I don't think any 3-loss team is in the playoff.
Yeah, there might be a scenario where a 3-loss team could make it, but it'd be one that played a harder schedule. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good teams this year. You're realizing it. You look in the top 5. Like usually, it's just one and 2 that have a shot at the title. I feel like the top 6, top 7, top 8 could win the title. Like it's really kind of open right now, and that might be the lack of strength of schedule that we've seen in a few teams. Or I think I think it's the talent. Personally, I think Indiana, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, even Ole Miss could win the title. Like it's very possible. And usually it's just 2 teams, 3 teams at the most. Not this year. There's quite a lot of teams that could win it.
Another part, that's a good point, Collin, and another part of that is the extended playoff too, where especially if you went back like the BCS era, only the 1 and 2. Right now, if we were in the BCS era, there'd only be 3 teams you'd feel like would be in the running, and Alabama would be in trouble. They'd be rooting. Sawyer would be sitting there saying, Indiana or Texas A&M.
Hey, well, I don't know. If we had the same BCS system that we did, back in the day, do you really think Indiana is 2 right now?
Undefeated, yes.
I don't think so.
The BCS went through a major gutting, though. In 2003, when Southern Cal didn't make the national title, they threw all this fit and they took the computer part, which was the strength schedule part, the non-bias part, out of it. I hated that. You could tell by my tone, I wasn't a big fan when they did that. That gutted the BCS, and then it became all about the AP poll. But the AP and coaches poll became the dominant factor after that. And so right now, look at the AP poll. That would be who your BCS. It would not vary that much from that. Now, pre-2003, you might have an argument on the computer because you had the Sagarin, the computer system that was doing a lot of that. They were like a bigger factor. They still were even in the final year, but I think they dropped it from like 30 or 40% to 15% or something because they complained so much because they put Oklahoma over Southern Cal in 2003 or whatever, and you had that LSU USC split. Yeah, I've been watching football for a while.
Lord, yeah.
I
remember the Mike
here about an hour into it, so we probably usually been trying to. I actually might actually split this episode, thinking about it, doing it into 2 parts. But yeah, I guess final thoughts. Collin, I'll let you go. I feel like you've probably talked the less. So what are some of your final thoughts on the season? What surprised you? What is and what didn't surprise you?
I'd say quite a lot. I thought this was going to be a bad year talent-wise, and I mean that like there wasn't going to be a lot of good teams like Ohio State, Georgia, or Ohio State, Oregon. I genuinely thought those are going to be the only 2 good, like really, really good teams. We have a lot of good teams. We have a lot of good teams in the running for a national title. That surprised me. Ty Simpson. I didn't think he was going to be a good quarterback. I heard some pretty gnarly stuff about his training camp. I thought he wasn't going to lead the team to be that good. Right now, he's second in Heisman voting. I did not expect that. Especially after the first game of the season, you couldn't make me believe that if you wanted me to. Indiana being second. Were they even ranked? I think they were like maybe like 24 or something. I don't.
Indiana is a basketball school. Supposedly.
That was also mind-boggling. Vanderbilt and Indiana. That's it. I thought Vanderbilt was going to be one and done. Then again, I also thought Pavia was going to be working as a car salesman right now. So, yeah, I feel like that's kind of it. And what didn't surprise me, there's not a lot that didn't surprise me. I expected Ohio State to still be number one by this point. I mean, the top 12 looks kind of what I expected to be, minus Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. I would say something like this in the preseason. Yeah, not a lot has been unsurprising. But also, the season has been, like, a little confusing at the same time. Like, it feels like a lot of teams are losing to unranked opponents, but it's like, also they're not. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it's a good season. I like the season right now.
Yeah, coming into it after there was a lot of chaos last season, and I did kind of expect, maybe not to the scale it had, but especially in the SEC. I did see a lot of depth in the SEC, and I didn't see a forward champion. But stuff that surprised me, I'd say the first one is that the arguably best SEC team is lost to a winless ACC team. doesn't do much for SEC pride right now. Y'all keep talking about how good the SEC is, but how do you lose to a winless? Nah, that's one.
I can't explain that. I just can't.
The collapse of Clemson, Penn State, Texas. You know, I could maybe predict one or two of them. I didn't think these teams were going to be. I didn't think they were going to live quite up to the hype that they were, but to be as bad as they've been, kind of shocked me. Vanderbilt, I thought Vanderbilt in Indiana is another one. I thought they had a chance to be good, but I didn't think they'd be this good. I was thinking like 8-9 win, kind of at their ceiling. And they may still be, but you know that. So that's probably the surprise. I did expect it to be kind of a chaotic year. I thought the Big Ten would be better. Big Ten, I felt like was a better conference than the SEC last year, and with the collapse of Penn State and some other Big Ten teams, they've not looked good at all. The SEC's looked stronger. And the last few years, Big Ten has been trending like they're better than the SEC. Well, not this year. But I'd kind of go with that. That'd be kind of my surprises. What about you, Sawyer?
Yeah, my surprises this year so far have been LSU. They have gone off the rails in the last few weeks. Surprisingly, it's been Indiana, like you said, Matt, Indiana and Vandy. Who would have thought Vandy would be with a one loss right now? I didn't think so. I didn't think Indiana would even be close to being ranked second in the nation. So that's really surprising to me with those two teams. Outside of the SEC, I didn't really expect much. I knew what Ohio State was and what they are going to be, just because of how they recruit and everything else like that. They're still ranked number one, so we'll see what they do, afterwards, after the regular season. But I mean, to me, the most, I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of, great upsets this year so far.
There is one. The biggest upset I argue is the biggest one since Appalachian State and Michigan. When I looked at it, and I was like, WTF, or what the heck? It was UCLA over Penn State. When that happened, UCLA had looked just, was 0-4, had looked just utterly dreadful, looked like the worst team in football, and Penn State was still a top 10 team. To me, that's one of the biggest upsets.
Yeah, they were still a title contender at that point, and then they lose to Northwestern right after that week. And as James Franklin getting fired, actually, all of these firings that are happening right now in college football is crazy.
It's up there.
Something like I don't think I've ever seen it like this.
So when upsets, UCLA over Penn State's up there to me, like with Appalachian State over Michigan. Vanderbilt over Alabama last year, and then there was a year when this USC with Pete Carroll looked really amazing, and there was like a 1-5 Stanford team, and they beat USC. That's kind of about on par with that. What UCLA beat Penn State. I remember that was another huge upset, but yeah, it's one of the biggest upsets I've seen. So I would say that's another big surprise this year.
Yeah.
I'm the only person that thought the James Franklin firing was like a bit of like a preemptive like fan, almost like it was like pre-firing it, if that makes sense. Like, I get he hasn't played good under big lights, but Like, he's led them to the playoffs before. He just, led them to the Final Four or, like, the semifinals, however you want to call it, or quarterfinals, whatever. I mean, I don't get why he got fired. I get, like, it was shaping up to be a bad season, and obviously they weren't wrong. Like, they don't look good at all. But I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around why they did it so fast.
Yeah, I'd say this. I'll give two examples. Why did Georgia fire Mark Richt? He was winning a lot there.
Yeah, see, there you go. I was about to say it. Yeah.
And then you guys were talking about Tennessee just earlier in the call. Can't win the big one. Are we starting to look a lot like Penn State? Because I feel like it's a good comparison point to us. Winning 9-10 games, can't win the big ones. So, which is still a lot better than where we were at before.
And another thing is, too, I mean, he couldn't really recruit at a high level that, Ohio State and Michigan are. He could never do it. I mean, and that goes into, obviously, NIL as well.
Yeah. Big Ten is all, it's Michigan, Ohio State can recruit that top talent. A lot of the other teams cannot. Now, I'm not sure about the West Coast teams fit in it because Oregon recruits very well. But, they may be able to get in there and play ball with them as well. But you go off the Big Ten prior to the expansion recently, you always feel like it was Michigan, Ohio State, and then you'd have maybe like a Wisconsin or a Penn State or Iowa or something. They'd have a tough defense but no talent on offense. It would be there but never could beat. They couldn't get over that hump. And so you'd have some good teams, but then it was like the only teams in the Big Ten that really were competing for national titles were Michigan and Ohio State. Now, maybe that changes with Washington, Southern Cal, and Oregon. Who knows? Because those programs can recruit. But, yeah, it's and I'm not sure what's happened to Nebraska, but they can't get back to recruiting like they had in the past. So it's like, you're right, Penn State, Nebraska, even they can't compete at that level anymore, it seems like. I guess any final parting thoughts?
Not that I can think of.
Sawyer, how about from you?
Well, let's just say I look forward to this upcoming weekend. Bama's on a bye week, so I don't have to stress a lot. And who do y'all have this week?
I can expect a trap game. I can just feel it in the air. Georgia's not. We're gonna be down by halftime. We're going. So I can just assume it's gonna be like 17-14 or something like that. We're gonna be down by halftime. It's coming. I already know. I'm not. It's Georgia, so I know it's gonna happen.
Coach this Florida.
I think it should be like 21-24 at half with the scoring.
We're gonna win. Oh, we're going to beat Florida. We'll just be down by halftime. It happens almost every. It's the same thing with Auburn. We've probably done it a few more times this season.
Well,
we're just team.
Well,
I don't know why.
When Kirby Smart played for Georgia, there was one of the games where Florida was up big, and Spurrier used to do this to rub it in. He threw this pass, and Florida, at the very end of the game, Florida scored a touchdown to just rub it in, another score. The defender that was covering the Florida receiver that caught that touchdown pass was Kirby Smart. He never forgot that about Florida. He hates Florida, so I'll leave it at that.
I think we can all agree that we don't like Florida in this group.
Yeah, I Tennessee got to Oklahoma, so I already mentioned that earlier. That's going to be a pretty interesting game. I tend to lean Tennessee just because it's in Neyland, but I did the same thing I got in the preseason. But I mean, they could lose that, but I just get the vibe we're going to win this one. Not sure about the Swamp though. That has me nervous, and Vandy has me nervous.
The Tennessee-Oklahoma game is definitely a knockout game. Whoever loses that game is like 100%. They're not making the playoffs. Yeah. So that's just
right.
Especially when it gets down to like last 4 or 5 games of the season, it's winner make a crappy bowl game. Like, I mean, that's just what it comes down to in the SEC.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining, and Sawyer, thank you for joining our channel. We'll be trying to put some other stuff together in the near future. Collin, it's been a while. I know we've talked about it, had plans, and then stuff fell through. And thank you guys, and it's good to get everybody back together. And look forward. We'll come back and revisit some of our thoughts, our national title teams let's say about in November. We'll see how things look then. As I say, it keeps changing. Thank you, guys.
Right. Yep. No problem.